do you have any advice in terms of advice that you'd offer to men?
To men, well, first of all, policemen and all those like protective forces, basically, they're trained in a different way than average people. So I would probably put them in a category of someone that is like differently simply programmed or brought up, you understand, educated. So their nervous system even reacts differently. But when it comes to education, maybe I wouldn't give advice to men because, as I said, it's like it just starts in the formating years, as she said, into like it's a deep programming sometimes, you know. But I would maybe teach women how to respond to the cues they get from any men, you know. This is what I would implement in education, basically, like teaching women actually how to respond rather than react, you know, because you don't know what kind of person you're dealing with, and whatever kind of reaction you're having internally, it's something that, you know, I would teach women how to respond to that rather than react, because to get out of it safely, you know, because you don't know what kind of, because we've all been raised in different environments and different circumstances, and I can't just like, give one advice to all mankind, or I mean, all, you know, all men. Different cultures raise different people, and different families raise different people. So maybe just like one of the things that I would implement, I would apply, I would bring in the educational system, maybe like teach women how to respond to the cues they get, like any kind of fear that is being triggered inside of them, like how to respond to that in order for them to get out of the situation safely, basically. Because if you respond to threat with the threat, or with like not accepting, you know, if we teach women that simply like some brains function differently, they will be able to, you know, they will be able to integrate that, to understand that, and then respond to the situation, respond to the reaction in an appropriate, in a very mature way, actually, very, very wise way, in a way, to get out of it safely. Because, as I said, we cannot, in my opinion, I cannot blame really the policeman. You understand? I'm not saying that the act, yes, but the man is simply like maybe programmed a certain way. You understand? So maybe he was internally triggered by something that you and I cannot explain rationally, but he's been triggered by something inside of him, and therefore he reacted a certain way. This, just like he said, like maybe violence is actually intimacy to him. So it's like, you know, maybe he couldn't, maybe he thought that, you know, showing a woman love towards her. I'm just saying that the way they think, you know, the way they.
It doesn't excuse what he's done, but like you try to understand.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No. But not at all. You know, we don't know how people think and associate things. Like it's, I cannot find out for myself, at least for someone else that I know so little. So. But we think very differently, and yeah.
And LJ, for you, why do you feel like it became a man issue rather than a police issue? Or do you feel like it was a natural evolution of the discourse?
Sorry, you broke up a little when you started the question.
Yeah, just I wanted to know why do you feel it turned from a police issue into a all men quote unquote issue? Because I know historically, you know, when police have committed a crime or something like that, often the brunt is targeted at the police force specifically, whereas this one was a lot more dispersed. Why do you think that was?
I think it's a symptom of the times more than anything. We're more polarized than ever, and no matter what you do, each side is going to take a very strong stance. And I think it gets muddled in with a lot of other things. And I think that's because it's been brought to attention by this kind of they are left-leaning crowd, the people particularly that have turned up on the streets. It's been amplified with these other messages and these other stuff. Like whenever they get interviewed on telly, they don't just talk about, it gets brought up about their own experiences, how men have always been like this. And it starts, I don't know, it seems like at some point, some of these people want to tar all men for some reason, is what it feels like to me. And I don't understand why, because it doesn't help the problem. But I think it's something to do with this hate of the patriarchy and all men being associated with it. I don't know, but it's, yeah, I think it's being amplified by a crowd with a particular mindset. And I think that's how it gets muddled in with all these other topics too.
Yeah, let me throw this to Emma before I go to Kane. Emma, are all men responsible in some way?
No, they are not responsible for what happened to Sarah. Not all men are responsible for that, but all men have a responsibility to conduct themselves in a certain way and be respectful. You know, women feel it's their responsibility to conduct themselves in a way where they have to be on edge, and men should reciprocate that by operating on a more considerate basis. I don't think all men are to blame. I think, as LJ was saying, there's a number of contributing factors. Unfortunately, in these situations, extreme views do tend to surface when it's an emotive topic. But yeah, ultimately, no, but I do think they could do better and more could be done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Kane, what's your experience from on the receiving end? You're a good-looking guy.
What do you mean by receiving end?
So with the catcalling context, right? I'd say it was kind of foreign to me from a young age, but I saw guys that it's like it worked for them. The level of resilience was just insane. I've been in like one spot for a few hours, and then there's been a couple of guys there, and literally every girl that walked past like the day, and then, you know, and they'd leave with like, you know, a few numbers and that kind of thing. And I guess in my mind, the issue always was, it's like they wouldn't do it if there wasn't some type of reward there. From your perspective, though, just because I think we heard from the ladies' perspective on the uncomfortability of the experience, how have you found it in the other way around, being approached by a woman, or have you ever had a comment or anything like that?
Yeah, man, without getting like all the time, no, but like, I remember like one particular time I was on holiday actually, and I'm from like Manchester, and I think a lot of people know that how in like particularly London, things can be a little bit more upfront and forward. And I remember I was at this all-inclusive hotel. I was just waiting to get my food, and this girl from London just came up to me and she just put it on me. Like, she was just like, "You're so handsome. Like, hey, how you doing? You okay?" And like, I could just tell in her eyes like she was feeling me and what was on the cards. And for me, that was quite like, I never had someone like come on to me like that so like abruptly before. And I remember being like, I'm okay, thank you. Like, I'm just trying to enjoy my holiday. Like, and so I kind of like, I have been in that position. But what I think is really different is as a man, if she tried to fling herself upon me, I could be like, "Hey, behave yourself," and that's the end of that moment. But as a woman, if a man tries to put himself on her, and she's gonna struggle to put herself on it. There's a whole new level of uncomfortable to be in there. I remember talking to my friends about this kind of situation, and I think to myself, okay, yeah, but she explained to me that, okay, yeah, I can say to him, look, I'm not interested, and walk away. But the fear of a woman can be, I don't want this to get violent, I don't want this to get physical. And for me, I've never felt like that, because I thought, well, this can get physical, like, it's not a problem. If this girl wants to get physical, I've got nothing to worry about. Oh yeah, stop hitting me, like, that's the end of it. But for her, it could be very damaging. Do you know what I mean? So I'll never feel as uncomfortable as a woman would feel because of that. I have been in some really uncomfortable situations where it's been the other way around, but it will never be to the same degree, because of my fears will never be as you know what I mean, as scary almost. That would be my opinion on that, definitely.